to 6 and 6, where we cover 6 stories from around the world in 6 minutes or less. With that said, start your timer. We begin today in Brazil, where the economy shows modest growth in this third quarter, highlighting the ongoing challenges in achieving a robust economic recovery, though. The nation's economic trajectory remains uncertain, influenced by global commodity prices, domestic political stability, and inflationary pressures. Economists are carefully assessing the stability of the current economic momentum, recognizing the complexity of both internal and external factors. From Reuters, quote, while the apparent progress in specific sectors suggests some positive momentum, the overall economic picture remains uncertain. Factors such as global commodity prices, domestic political stability, and inflationary pressures are all critical elements that could shape the trajectory of Brazil's economic health, the economist Felipe Silveira said, end quote. Next, we travel across the Atlantic to Tunisia, who has arrested a prominent opposition leader, Hama Hamani, to enforce a 5-year jail term, marking an escalation in President Kais Said's crackdown on political dissent. The detention of the Workers' Party leader highlights the government's increasing authoritarian approach and continued suppression of opposition voices. From Reuters, quote, Hama Hamai's arrest is yet another manifestation of the alarming deterioration of political freedoms and human rights in Tunisia. This move underscores an intensifying clampdown on dissidents by President Kais Saied's administration, which has progressively constricted the space for opposition voices. Such actions not only undermine the rule of law, but also erode public trust in governance. End quote. Back across the Atlantic in Honduras, they are experiencing a critically tight presidential election with results nearly evenly split between candidates, creating national uncertainty. The situation is further complicated by the simultaneous release of former Honduran president from a U.S. prison, which could potentially influence the current political dynamics. The election remains unresolved, and both sides await a final tally that could determine the country's political future. From Reuters, quote, the tight election has gripped the nation with the two leading candidates neck and neck in an unprecedented deadlock. Analysts suggest that the delay in results could heighten existing tensions within the country as supporters of both political parties gather, awaiting news of a breakthrough. The atmosphere remains charged with uncertainty and anticipation. Next, across the Pacific in South Korea, President Yoon Suk-yeol emphasized the need to address the lingering effects of the country's authoritarian past, particularly from the martial law period in the 1980s. He highlighted the importance of a new task force established to investigate historical injustices and reform institutions implicated in past human rights abuses. The administration's efforts to bring closure, accountability, and promote democratic healing by confronting the shadows of previous oppressive regimes. From Reuters, quote, despite the significant progress our nation has made, we find ourselves repeatedly confronted with the shadows of that era. Institutions that played a role in historical injustices still exert influence and reforming these structures is imperative for the moral healing of our nation. Next, we travel south to Australia, where the central bank anticipates the country will likely operate at its potential growth rate, facing challenges from global uncertainty, labor shortages, and inflationary pressures. The economic outlook remains cautiously optimistic, with a focus on maintaining financial stability through a strategic policy of adjustments. From Reuters, quote, our current assessments suggest that Australia's economic expansion will likely remain within its potential growth trajectory in the coming years, despite global disruptions and domestic challenges. Inflation continues to be a pressing concern that demands vigilant monitoring and strategic policy measures, end quote. And finally, we end today in Russia, where Russian President Vladimir Putin plans to visit India at the end of December 2025 to strengthen strategic ties, focusing on energy and defense cooperation. The visit underscores Russia's pivot to Asia and aims to enhance bilateral relations through potential military equipment manufacturing agreements and energy project discussions. This diplomatic engagement comes amid geopolitical tensions and Russia's efforts to diversify its international partnerships. From Reuters, quote, Russia has recognized India as both a crucial ally in Asia and a key market for its defense and energy exports. Both nations might explore collaborations in renewable energy and advanced technology sectors, aiming for a comprehensive partnership that benefits both economies, end quote. And if you want to check out any of today's articles, all of them will be linked in the description below that like and subscribe button. Also, down there you can find the podcast on Spotify, Podcast, Podvine, as well as Apple Podcast. And down there is the Twitter handle at Your Daily Flip, where I post links to these episodes on Tuesday and Thursday, and the normal US-based podcast on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So, with all that said, there's only one more thing to say. Stay safe. Don't die.